And hello, everyone. I know I'm back again with a new Chomping at the Bit. This time for the new 2024 film, Twisters. And honestly, I know what I said in the Chomping at the review for the 2024 slate of films that I did that I automatically would have written this movie off, but I guess that inner meteorologist in me wanted to go see this film, and also, again, I'm a bit of a sucker for disaster films, so I honestly could not resist the urge to go see this movie, so I did, and I actually was kind of surprised by it. It's actually a pretty solid 7 out of 10 film. Even Jeremy John said it was a film that was quote unquote a good time, no alcohol required. But yeah, so getting into it, yeah, the movie stars let me just really look up the cast real quick. Okay, it stars Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, uh, and that's about it. I mean, they're mostly like the two leads of the movie, but already the point goes is that this movie, it's really a spiritual sequel to the original film, but it has no connection outside from a few beats. And I mean, there are some story beats that are sort of like they're a bit of a rehash, but in a different form or another from the original film. But to put it plainly, the film itself starts off with, of course, Edgar Daisy Edgar Jones's character Kate, obviously going about trying to using some sort of sodium based absorption um dust or whatever it is to try to hopefully disrupt a tornado somehow. And of course they also have the little radar balls and the Dorothy radar deployment system, just like in the original film, which originally in the original film was meant to just measure the structure of a tornado by getting it very, very close to the suck zone, battle zone, or whatever you want to call it, just getting in the damage path. And it goes it goes horribly wrong. And of course, she has a whole team with her. She has three of her closest friends, one guy named Javi who is monitoring who's the monitor station, and she has three of her friends. One of them's another girl who's kind of the geeky one of the group, her boyfriend, and another dude who's like in the car with her trying to get like the Dopplers and whatnot. And they dispense the sodium dust stuff that's supposed to absorb and basically essentially disrupt a tornado. And the whole problem is it falls apart. In fact, I think looking at it from that angle, it looks like I think it actually made the storm stronger, more or less. At least that's from what I initially thinking, but it gets bad. And of course, they're trying to flee on foot. They try to flee on foot, and the first thing they do is try to take shelter in an overpass. It's just, guys, like, come on. If I know anything about Tornado City, that is the worst place you could be taking shelter in a storm. I already know the whole thing about go lie in a ditch. No, you're just asking to get sucked up by that storm. And it's just that problem. But they try to get in there. One of their friends barely before they even get there, one of their first friend, the Doppler guy, I think his name is darn, I'm trying to look at the names of the cast here. Yeah, Pavian, played by Nick Damnati. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this guy's name, but he basically gets sucked up first. Her and Kate and her boyfriend Jeb, played by Daryl McCormack. Yeah, they make it to the overpass, but their third friend, the nerdy girl named Addie, she's struggling on for life, but ultimately she gets hit by a piece of debris and she gets sucked up. And it's only her and Jeb that make it to the overpass, and they try to hold on for dear life. And he keeps screaming to you, "I got you! I got you! It's gonna be okay! It's gonna be okay!" But he ultimately also gets sucked out. Now, a little thing I want to make note of, make note to everybody. There were a group of people that actually did try to take cover in an overpass as a tornado was passing straight over. But if you know how this kind of stuff works, being inside of an overpass is like being inside of a vacuum cleaner. That stuff would just elevate the winds up. And thankfully, again, there was a camera crew of there was a camera crew, some storm chasers, and a young family, a father and his two daughters. You can find that harrowing footage out on the internet somewhere. But they basically did the exact same thing, and they held on for dear life. But thankfully, nobody got sucked out. But that scene basically shows you why you never take cover under an overpass. You never ever do that. But even in other movies where where a tornado is present, there have been some people that have done this sort of thing, and it's the worst thing you could ever do. You are literally just signing your death warrant getting into an overpass. The best thing to do is always get into a structure, in the first floor of a structure, get into the basement, or get into the most center interior room. That is the one thing they always teach you. Even when you do tornado drills in school, they always make you go out into the hallway. You're not going to stay in the classroom. You're just going to get in the hallway and get your head down. But all these friends of hers, they all die. They all get sucked up and get killed by the storm. Just like how Helen Hunt in the first movie, she loses her father as he was trying to protect his family from the storm. He gets sucked up the same way, like in the original film. It's the same sort of beat there, but it's a little bit different. But in the movie, these tornadoes do not pull punches. People actually do die. And I'm saying there is a pretty big death count, a pretty serious death count in this movie. Several people. There's like, I'd say about five or six unfortunate people, and two people I actually were at first, by how annoying they were. I was actually hoping, and I think thankfully my wish got fulfilled. I know I'm a little morbid like that, but still. But moving on, all of her friends get sucked up, and she's the sole survivor of the whole thing. And of course, yeah, her friend Javi was the one monitoring everything from far away. Yeah, I know he was out of the danger, but all of her friends basically perished. All of them did, and it was very, very tragic. I especially hated that her friend Addie got killed. I was like, oh my god, that entire opening scene, that actually does tug on your heartstrings. Personally, it really does for me. It really did. But again, we fast forward about 5 years later, and yeah, she is a little torn up, and of course, she's still suffering from survivor's guilt. But she leaves Oklahoma and goes to work for the NOAA branch in New York City. And of course, who else but Javi shows up to tell her that, oh, I did some time. I worked in the military I worked in the military for a little while, and he actually has these new type of radar systems, these new type of state-of-the-art radars that you have to that you have to triangulate in order to get a 3D structure of a tornado. And at least for the first half of the movie, at least for the first 40 minutes, like for the first 10 to 20 minutes of the movie, this is mainly what Javi, Kate, and their team called Storm Par are trying to essentially do, is just try to get close to a tornado, put these radars down so they can map the structure and get a three-dimensional view of the supercell and the tornado itself. But the problem, Kate and Javi, well, Kate obviously can't do it because, well, she's got survivor's guilt, and I'm pretty much sure she's basically suffering from survivor's guilt and PTSD. She basically just freezes up because of that. Because again, I mean, you're obviously are very torn up by the fact that that thing killed two of your best friends and your boyfriend. She is really still torn up about that. It's the same thing that happened with Helen Hunt's character. She had something of a death wish, thinking if she basically finds a way to either disrupt or try to capture this tornado, it would basically she'd basically be avenging her friends essentially. But this is this whole thing, these first several times they try to get the map structure of this tornado. She is literally she's basically having PTSD. It's like, woman, you really are not stable here. You clearly are not up for this. You clearly are still suffering. You clearly have not healed from it. But also, moving forward a little bit from that, we also enter in Glenn Powell's character and his little ragtag group of storm chasers, or the Tornado Wranglers, as they're called. And of course, I mean, this just basically shows that this is Twister if it was basically just made in our modern time, because his group are just a bunch of amateur tornado enthusiasts, and they're storm chasers from Arkansas. And I know, again, this takes place in Oklahoma, but yeah, they're doing all this stuff at first for YouTube notoriety and for the clicks. It's just like, this is definitely something that, that Gen Z is. This is in there, put in there for the possible Gen Z viewers of this movie. It's just like, and oh my god, all that stuff with the Tornado Wrangler stuff, them live streaming everything. It is so cringy. It really is. I mean, they're nothing. I mean, he's really is kind of like Bill Paxton's character in a way, but I mean, it's just like there's that same sort of dynamic between like how it was with Jonas Miller and his Nightcrawlers, and of course Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton and their little storm chaser group that were in it for the science. But it's crazy how the guys who were actually in this for the actual real science of understanding a tornado, those guys are just doing it for cheap thrills. And of course, I think they actually did slightly. I think maybe in a way they almost did disrupt the tornado by using fireworks, but that was all for spectacle and just for YouTube clout. It's just like, wow, this is kind of the kind of crazy stuff that I bet somebody would be crazy enough to do. I mean, of course, the truck is tricked out with anchor drills to try to anchor the thing in place, firework launchers, stuff like that, smoker. I mean, that truck is decked out with everything to survive everything from a tornado, mostly. But yeah, I mean, of course, they kind of get a little thing, and of course, there's a little bit of that rivalry between the two sides. Again, the actual people, but we learn a little bit later that Stormpar is just doing this because they actually have a real estate investor who's obviously trying to take advantage of people. When these tornadoes actually do destroy towns and homes and everything, this guy's hoping to collect insurance and buy up the land from any of these people who have lost everything. So at first, yeah, they think they're just doing. I mean, at least Javi was somewhat not aware of it. But again, sometimes, I mean, in that business, I mean, the private sector, I mean, you gotta have the money to do all this stuff. I mean, it's not like in the original film; they were just doing it because they were just scientists who were MacGyvering all this stuff and just basically having the whole concept of science favoring the bold. They were going in there and they just were doing things by the skin of their teeth, and they just were actual geniuses. While Jonas Miller was just only in it for the corporate sponsorship and the money. And I mean, Javi still kind of feels that guilt a little bit more, and eventually in the movie he does turn things around. But this all happens, and of course, at first, like, you think that these guys are just like complete jerks, and I actually do kind of think they were kind of annoying idiots in a way, just because they're doing this just for just YouTube clout and whatnot. But they actually they eventually do start noticing that, yeah, these guys, they do have a little bit of heart to them, but also, again, they still try to take advantage a little bit of it to sell merch and sell all their stuff, just like any big YouTubers would do. It's still, I think, at first, because there's that point in the movie where I think, yeah, both of you people are both sides are assholes. They really are assholes. One side is trying to exploit tragedy, the other is trying to both sides are trying to exploit tragedy for money. One side is trying to exploit it for real estate gain, the other side is trying to exploit it for YouTube clicks and just to sell their junk and their merch. It's just, I honestly, it's just that one point in the movie where I really actually did kind of hate both of these guys. But then again, they still kind of have that genuine side of themselves with Tyler and his storm chaser group, or his tornado wrangler buddies. They do actually care a little bit. They actually do care about helping people in a small capacity. They do. But we don't actually see stuff like, again, like trying to save a dog. We don't actually see the dog. They just say offhandedly they just say, "Oh yeah, we found the dog off screen." Just like that doesn't actually have as much as emotional impact. The only emotional impact that hangs in the story is, of course, Kate still feeling the horror and loss of losing her friends while storm chasing, and them trying to using their MacGyver science experiment to try to disrupt the tornado. And yeah, it's still that sort of thing. But like I said, though, they do. I mean, Kate and Tyler go to a rodeo for a bit, and they kind of bond a little. They kind of bond a little bit, and then just like in the original movie, when they had some unsuccessful attempts, the characters try to have a little downtime, and then just out of nowhere, tornado just shows up and starts wreaking havoc at a rodeo, when the original film was at a drive-in theater, which was honestly more terrifying. But yeah, a lot of people were already scrambling out of there, scrambling in their cars, and there were very few people that were getting away. And when they try to get to the hotel and asking the front desk clerk, "Is there a basement or something?" It's like, and you got this annoying ass couple saying, "Yeah, the TV, the cable's out, the air conditioner is blowing hot air." It's like, I demand a refund for this. Like, dude, you not hear a tornado was outside? And his girlfriend's like, there's no real tornado. Usually 9 times out of 10, it's just a false alarm. And I'm thinking to myself, where the frick are you people from? Are you from California or something? It's like, oh my God, these people. I was hoping if the tornado was coming, I hope those two get sucked up by it. And yeah, they eventually do they freak out. Oh God, tornado! We gotta get out of here. Let's get in the car. And they get sucked up. It's like, yes, thank you. Goodbye, you idiotic losers. Goodbye. But yeah, and also again, there's a mother and her young daughter. They're trying to escape, and it's like, yeah, Kate and Tyler try to escape, and they try to take refuge in a drained pool. They get in, but yeah, unfortunately, also the desk clerk, he gets unfortunately sucked up. It's very sad. So, but yeah, all of them do survive. The girl, but again, we also think, oh, I mean, you're on the edge of your seat, but we all know Glenn Powell's character is not gonna die, because again, he's one of the main leads. He's got an obvious main character shield. So nothing bad's gonna happen to him. And just there's a lot of points in the movies where he's just like, I'm just like, God damn you, Glenn Powell, you sexy, charming bastard. It's like, damn, how is this guy so damn charming? It's like, damn. I mean, personally, look, I know he brought a little bit of that hangman energy he brought from Top Gun Maverick, but I still think one of his best performances is in Devotion. I still think that's one of his more better films, personally. And I know I didn't see Anything But You, but I mean, probably only watched that movie to see because Sydney Sweeney's sexy. That's all. That's mainly the reason why I never watched that movie, just because of her. But Anyway, yeah, this stuff happened. All the stuff happened. There were those unfortunate victims. Two of them, I honestly was happy to see them get killed. But the desk clerk at the motel was unfortunately sucked up. But they all survived, and now they're just gonna try to. And of course, Kate goes back to her childhood home, and we see a small flashback of her boyfriend Jeb when she basically goes in the bar and she conducted a lot of her like science, a lot of her college science experiments, and even a middle school science project she did. Because it seems like, yeah, Kate has had an interest in meteorology since she was a little kid, and the same thing goes for Tyler. He saw a tornado when he was a little kid, and he was just mesmerized by it. And I mean, it takes them, but at least you think that, yeah, he has studied meteorology, but most of his crew kind of haven't. And there's like maybe one or two other people, and the rest are just kind of there MacGyvering stuff. And I know there's also among them was like a British reporter among them who at first, when they first do it, he gets like sick and whatnot. So he's like slightly like the Melissa character, but he does stick around throughout most of the movie. So he's just trying to get his story, and I mean, sure, he does kind of help a little bit in the climax of the movie. But yeah, Kate's feeling really down. She's trying to remember her another thing that leads into a flashback of her boyfriend before, and she was enthusiastic of wanting to conduct her experiment just before, and again, this is just before the tragedy struck at the beginning of the movie 5 years prior. And yeah, but then they start seeing like, I think you got it all wrong. They start brainstorming and try to MacGyver and using new type of things. They do try it again, they do release the chemicals again, and it doesn't really do anything. But again, I think even back in the earlier movie, I think that really close that it doesn't actually make the storm stronger. It was just ineffective, and there wasn't enough of that sodium absorption substance that she developed. And yeah, they kind of they try that it didn't work, and yeah, they kind of have that downtime, and they think to themselves, yeah, let's just work together. And yeah, I know, yeah, Javi comes by, and again, well, during that time in the rodeo, she does look up that the investor that Javi works with obviously is a real estate investor, and he's only in it, and that's where he got most of the fun. That's where he got the most of the funding for the company he started, Stormpar. But again, he says he's sorry, and he says, yeah, look, you don't think this hasn't been affecting me too? It has. I'm still carrying all that tragedy with me too. But yeah, I mean, the Stormpar guys still try to do it, and you think just like how happened with Jonas Miller because he was being an arrogant jerk, he thinks he gets sucked up. But thankfully, they don't. Nothing bad happens to him. Thankfully, that's actually a good thing. I mean, they had a pretty close call when we get to that like oil refinery in the trailer where it sucks up and becomes it becomes only for a brief second, it becomes like a flame NATO. But yeah, they get real close to it, but yeah, the storm overpasses them, and after that, another tornado pops up, and it heads straight for El Reno, Oklahoma. Now, if you know anything about meteorology, in 2010, that was actually El Reno was actually the site of the largest tornado ever recorded. That was over 2.5 miles wide. And I mean, El Reno's a small town, and man, the whole town just gets murked in the whole thing. But I know what his storm chaser buddy, I think his name his name was my real life namesake, Scott. But yeah, he says, no, dude, I don't care. We are doing this to set this storm up. And he says, no, man, that thing's heading straight for town. We got to go help those people. Dude, I don't care about people. We are doing this for the money. And he just leaves the guy on the side of the road. That was a fine thing. So yeah, Javi does come around in the movie and says, yeah, I'm going to go and help people now. I'm going to go and do this because I only wanted to start this company because I wanted to help save lives. And I'm glad the man fell back on his principles. That's a good thing. That was another little instance I did like about this movie. But this big tornado is heading straight for El Reno. They're trying to get everyone to safety. I mean, all the shelters are full up, but there's not a lot of structures. Everyone tries to take refuge in a movie theater, but clearly it's not built. It doesn't even have a basement, so obviously it's gonna be bad. The storm is closing in. Like, Tyler gets pinned for a brief second, but Javi shows up just in time to help him get out of some debris he's pinned under. And they try to take refuge inside the theater. But like I said, throughout this entire thing, it already says in the thumbnail, guys, this is a full-on spoiler review. So if you have not seen the movie, you should have already left. I know I should have already said that, but this is just I MacGyver this whole review in the heat of the moment because why not? But yeah, the whole thing happens. Yeah, they take refuge. The tornado's closing in. It breaks apart the theater, but Kate still determined to try to hopefully using some new types of chemicals and adding some new ones, like they add aluminum to the solution. And she bravely drives off into the tornado, tries to anchor it down the best she can, and tries to release the chemical sodium stuff that she's trying to use to disrupt it. The truck gets turned over briefly. The tornado is closing. It tears off the front, like the screen part of the theater itself, and unfortunately, again, another couple unfortunate random people get sucked out. So sad to see them. And one of Tyler's Storm Wrangler buddies, a girl named Lily, I think her name was. She's close to getting sucked out. But yeah, Kate succeeds in dispensing the stuff. And just as it's about to get near the theater, the storm itself dissipates. So it worked. Her little science project that originally went horribly wrong 5 years ago, and with a little help in MacGyvering and brainstorming with Tyler, she actually accomplished what she set out to do, and probably also somewhat avenging her dearly departed boyfriend and her friends. So that's how it goes. She wants to head back to New York and hopefully submit her findings to Noah, and hopefully that'll be finding a way to hopefully mitigate everything. And of course, they only briefly talk about the idea that these storms are only because of like all this heat stuff. The world's getting hotter, and I know severe weather is getting worse and worse every year, which I don't entirely believe that's really the case. Because I mean, the only major storm we've had so far this hurricane season is Beryl, and I mean, it barely did any serious damage to Texas. But that's a different thing. But yeah, she goes off, and you think at first, like, yeah, like he probably thinks he got to, and they're like, oh my god, they're gonna go and just give us some just a romance right out of the blue. It's like, and thankfully it didn't happen. And I was like, thank God. It would have been extremely cliched if they actually went there, where there was some buildup in places, but it felt more like bonding in a way of them like becoming more friends than they actually were becoming like lovers. And personally, that was just I'm really just happy that there was no romance in this. But overall, I'd say Twisters was a fairly decent film. I mean, it doesn't really hold. I mean, there are some emotional beats that are similar to the original film, and I know it still doesn't. Personally, I still think it doesn't really hold a candle to the original, but it has a lot of good spectacle in there. The effects are decent, and it's a pretty good fun. It's a good fun film. It's really kind of the whole thing of what these kind of films are. Disaster films are meant to be blockbusters. So there you go. I mean, it's a fairly decent film. I give it a solid 7 out of 10. Like I said, the stuff with all the viral like YouTube clout thing, all with all the live streaming and whatnot, and them having that brazen, arrogant, douchey attitude that Tyler has in the beginning. It honestly was very cringy. So that really brought the points of the film down a peg. But the emotional beats and emotional turmoil the main female lead goes through from the beginning and almost up until the near the half after a little past the halfway point of the film. It is also a very good. It's a good emotional ride throughout, and of course, I mean, yeah, all the tornado spectacle is also really interesting. Like I said, the effects are good, and it's great. I mean, I personally think I would probably recommend anyone go see it, but I'd say, I mean, save your money to go see it during a Saturday matinee, more or less at a reduced price. Or if you're not really those type of people that really still goes to theaters, wait for it to come out on streaming. But overall, it's a good movie. Thank you guys all for watching. Be able to subscribe. And as always, everyone, if you actually live in a very tornado prone area, stay safe, take cover, and always pray to God that you'll be safe. And may he help you, keep you, and may God, the force, and the power protect you always. See you next time, everybody.